to another edition of the Oh Hi, Oh Guys podcast. And today we're bringing you a special episode of the podcast titled Today is the Last Ordinary Day, our Jericho TV show podcast. We're not talking about Chris Jericho, the wrestler. We're not talking about the walls of Jericho. We're not talking about anything like the biblical Jericho. We're talking about the town of Jericho, Kansas, and the TV show centered around it during a post apocalyptic Fallout type scenario. Um, if you didn't already know, we're your hosts for this evening. I am Flapjack Palmdale, and this is my co host, Denzel Diggs Underwood Morris, Chestnut Washington, aka Alex Swisher and Chad Porto.
I love it.
Chad. Oh, don't worry. That's the running theme from now on. Is that we are going to be Burton Guster names.
Yes. Well,
Flapjack Palmdale.
I think for the sake of not running out of the bit, one of us should be the Guster name for the week.
Okay.
That way
It's
we
always
can.
going to be you.
That's fine. I have no
It's
problem.
Alex Swisher, and then because you're, in the sense of this podcast, I'm the Sean Spencer, and you are the Burton Guster. Even though, because I'm the host of the show, but even though you lead the podcast most of the time.
Well, Gus does answer most of Sean's questions. I mean, that does kind of track.
Yeah.
Like, if it
So,
wasn't for Gus, Sean would be like on the McAllister murder still, which was the very first one from the pilot.
there were so many good names for me to choose from, but I had to go with the mouthful for you of Denzel Diggs, Underwood Morris, Chestnut Washington.
Excuse me. I thought I muted myself for the cough and unmuted myself for the part where I said, I hope I get the holla back at you part.
Oh, don't worry, holla back at you will come your way. Another notable favorite will be Shi Dynasty.
He cometh in peace.
He cometh Imhotep, or he cometh in peace.
My name is Sean Spencer, and this is my cohort, Burton Guster. Now you use my real name, Sean. Now you use my real name.
In front of a serial killer.
I didn't kill anyone, which is ironic because the guy they're talking to played Imhotep in the Mummy movie. Ha ha!
Oh,
Yeah.
you're right. Holy shit.
It all tracks.
But that actually, talking about the show Psych ties in because Timothy O'Munson, who was in the show, is a recurring character in the show that we are going to be talking about tonight, which is Jericho.
Woot woot.
A series that ran from 2006 to 2008.
Yes, because they were kind of off for most of 2007, so like the second season was filler for 2008.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to be talking about this. It's a fucking fantastic show. I really think it stands out among post-apocalyptic, dramas because this isn't akin to like The Walking Dead where it's like this brutal, grueling fight for survival. It's more of we're making the best of a bad situation, and every character, no matter how much they're hated or liked in the show, is humanized to a degree. They're not this caricature of a villain in a show like this. Every character has their human parts, even the antagonists of the show. And I think that the cast for this was really well. It was really well casted. I think Skeet Ulrich is a very underrated actor. I think he does a great job portraying the lead of the show. And then Lenny James is just in a fucking league of his own.
What's your favorite post-apocalyptic movie? Because, he was in Scream.
Oh yeah.
My mom's gonna be so mad at me. Fuck you, Matthew Lillard. Stop making me love you. So the name Jericho comes from the Bible. Obviously, it's the first city that was attacked by the Israelites after they crossed the Jordan River. They had the Wall of Jericho, which was destroyed. And if you read the canonical VeggieTales, which are exactly how it happens, a group of vegetables attacked the wall, walked around it for 40 days while peas sang, "Keep walking, but you won't knock down our wall. Keep walking, but she isn't going to fall." But it did fall. This is a really drastic kind of interpretation because this is the inverse. Unlike Jericho, the biblical city, for being the first one to fall, Jericho, the Kansas city, was one of the few that survived. And as we find out, this specific city was chosen for a reason. Because goddamn Lenny James, in a post-apocalyptic society, will always survive. Don't matter if it's nuclear fallout, zombies, Republicans taking over the state. He'll find a way to get by. He gives zero fucks, and zero fucks will be had. All right, I'm having some issues keeping a strong connection, so let's just not stream and record offline. That way I don't have to worry about these goddamn fucking numbers, yo.
Okay.
Actually, no, we're going to keep streaming because I just remembered I have to port the fucking episode over to YouTube. Never mind. Maybe we can close.
Well, we tried.
Well, I'm trying to be helpful. Oh well. I guess we'll just suck. So, I love this is my favorite pilot in the history of pilots. Like we just got done watching both One Tree Hill and Cobra Kai, and Cobra Kai's first pilot episode was just Johnny Lawrence being a drunken douchebag. And the pilot episode of One Tree Hill was just both brothers being kind of douchebags.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, when you have like untamed hair and you walk around at midnight wearing a fucking dark hoodie dribbling in the street, you're a douchebag.
Yeah.
This was another episode that started with kind of a douchebag, but we call him Dad in this show. So the basic premise is Jake Green is coming home for the first time in, like, what was it, 6 years or something like that?
5.
5 years. First time since his grandfather died. And he came back to essentially ask for money. And his father, Johnson Green, kind of figured, oh, okay, this is some bullshit. You doing this bullshit again, Jake. You've always been a bullshitter. Because Jake's been he's the black sheep of his family. He's got a pretty cool, I don't even remember what kind of car this is. Like a Mustang? Like an old Mustang? Old Charger, maybe? Old Winchester car?
Something. It's a very old muscle car, American muscle car.
And I think it was
see if I can find out.
Yeah, and I think it was his grandfather's as well. His mother's the typical, like, he's Johnson, he's an artist. You leave him be. Never wants to admit that Jake's kind of a giant fuck up. But he rolls into town looking for his inheritance from his grandfather. And his father shuts him down. He's like, well, fuck this noise then. Jumping ahead a bit, just because, like, we always format these shows differently whenever we do them. It's kind of just like whatever the next talking point is what we'll do. We try to format it, but since this is a one-off episode, I feel like we don't need to have a strict code of conduct. You just got an update. What was it, the Weidman fight?
No, that was the fucking thrashing of the Wildcats by the Buckeyes.
Oh no. Oh no. So,
yeah, it was the final score, if anybody cares, Buckeyes 52, Wildcats 3.
Almost had him.
It was very close there towards the end.
It was only 13. It was only 14-3 at the start of the second. You almost had him. So Jake's like, fuck this noise. I'm out of here. And as he's driving out of town, kaboom, he sees the nuke go off. And yes, there's a nuke. But before we go into the nuke, let's talk about the Johnson familials. The individuals that represent the Johnson... Well, that's not the Johnsons, it's the Green. Sorry. I fucked that one up. The Greens, the Green familial, the Green clan, if you will. Although not that kind of clan. So we have Jake, who is kind of a... he's well, he looks like he's in The Outsiders in 2006. Book was taking place in the 50s, so lost in time. His brother, Eric Green, is the do no wrong deputy mayor, whose wife, I believe, what was his wife's name? Help me out here.
Emily?
Was it Emily?
No, not Emily.
No, Emily's Jake's ex. Yes, April.
Yeah.
And he's married to April, a doctor, and they're in love. Or are they? Like Swisher said, this was not a show about Gotta kill all the Zimbabwe's. This was a show about restarting life in Jericho, which meant there's high drama. So we also have Johnson Green. Johnson is the mayor and the father to Eric and Jake. And then you have Mama Green, Gail Green, and she's all kinds of doting. She's worried about Johnson
annoying.
all the time. What's that?
She's fucking annoying.
She's a mom.
Yeah. So I found Jake's car.
Okay.
He drives a 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner.
Okay.
Yep.
And ironically enough, he runs it off the road.
It's not his fault. I rewatched because
I know it was a deer. He was looking at the mushroom cloud. He didn't see the deer, and the deer.
He didn't hit a deer.
I thought he hit a deer.
He hit another family.
The bus hit the deer.
The bus hit the deer.
Right.
So he didn't actually hit anybody. He was in the proper lane. The other car was fully on in his lane.
Right. That was never in dispute, I don't think. Like that was never a plot point. Although it should have been.
It absolutely should have been, because nobody was like, "What happened to your car?" What, and he's like, What
happened to that family of 4 in that station wagon that got killed? They're coyote food.
So when you think about it, the continuity all lines up, because nobody would have found his car at the scene of the crime, because Jonah Prouse and his survivalists come and scavenge the car and take it back to their comp.
And Jonah Prouse is the father of Emily Sullivan. She goes by her maternal name because her father's kind of a giant douchebag, but her father's also the greatest movie thug of all time, right next to Bob from Batman, because he was the main thug in The Phantom. I thought I killed him 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I will always know my movie thug villains. So Jonah Proust gutted, and not actually gutted, but he took all the useful stuff, and I don't know what he did with the bodies. Probably buried them in a massive grave, or didn't. They were probably coyote food. So Eric has a relationship though on the side with what was her name? Bonnie?
Mary Bailey.
Mary Bailey, and Mary Bailey runs the local bar, and the bar is Bailey's Bar. And ironically enough, they don't serve Bailey's Irish Cream, just beer. And later in the series, liquor, clear moonshine. Bailey's, and this is going to be a central point for a lot of the emotional stuff. Bailey's is one of the places that is most integral to Jake. It's most integral to Johnston. It's the Green family. Eventually, Eric, basically lives out of the bar. So this bar is almost as pertinent as any point in town. And what I loved about this show is that they set up this great small mini lot. It felt like very much like a Western lot, but with modernized buildings. Yeah. And at the end of the lot was Town Hall, and then you had Main Street, which was basically Bailey's. They don't show it, but it's implied that the hospital's also on Main Street. The gas station and the lone convenience store, which was I forget her name. It was ran by was it Gracie? Yeah, it was Gracie.
Gracie Lee.
Gracie Lee, and Gracie Lee's kind of the town curmudgeon. There's no old "get off my lawn" character. There's just Gracie Lee, and Gracie Lee runs Gracie's Groceries, and she's terrible most of the time. She takes a special interest, though, in a young man who
Crash.
Yes, he is in fact Crash from Crash and the Boys. Yes,
you're damn straight.
This is our next song. It's called "We Hate You, Please Die." Oh, I love this one.
This one goes out to the guy who keeps yelling stuff from the balcony. It's called "We Hate You, Please Die."